out if you close your eyes.
Yo guys, Mental Gamer here, welcome back to another video. First of all, I just want to say thank you all so much for over 150 subscribers. Honestly, the support does mean so much to me. And also make sure you follow me on Twitter, there's a link in my channel art so you'll be able to click on that. Anyway, today's video is about what Peter Parker will be like in Spider-Man PS4. Now I want to thank LukeSec for suggesting this in the comments. At first I weren't really sure what I could talk about, but I've come up with a lot of points that I can bring up in this video. So let's get straight on into it. Some main points to start with are that Insomniac have already said that this story is going to be a very human story, and that Peter is as much of a main character as Spider-Man. This is relevant because it shows that Peter Parker is a big part of Spider-Man PS4, and they're really working hard to make sure they get the character right. We also know that Insomniac are focusing the story of Spider-Man PS4 on how Peter Parker and Spider-Man's world collide. This is a point that I'll bring up later in the video, because it actually shows us quite a bit about what we've already seen of Peter Parker. Now Peter Parker's always been very intelligent, and that's reflected in the fact that Peter's a scientist in Spider-Man PS4. But as for all the other traits we know of Peter, we've got to take into account the fact that this is an older version of Peter, and in the comics he's usually younger. Except for nowadays, he's actually older in the comics as well, which could tie into the game somehow. But let's get on to what we've seen in the trailer. In the trailer, Peter seemed quite serious, and the atmosphere was quite down. Now I don't think Peter's going to be so serious throughout the whole game, but I think Insomniac was showcasing how being Spider-Man affects Peter's life, and that's where we get into Spider-Man and Peter Parker's world colliding. The negative effects of being Spider-Man on Peter were reflected in the apartment scene of the trailer, where we see him getting evicted. This shows how being Spider-Man means he can't go to work as much and he can't maintain his property. And we also heard Peter say maybe Peter Parker can have more of a life, which shows that he knows being Spider-Man is always going to limit him socially. The trailer definitely showcased negative parts of Peter's life more, but in the whole game there will most likely be ups and downs, which links into something that Brian Intihar has said quite a bit, which is when Spider-Man wins, Peter Parker loses, and when Peter Parker wins, Spider-Man loses. So Peter Parker's never going to be able to be great socially or maintain property if he's out being Spider-Man and successfully stopping crime. We also caught a gist of how Peter will be around Miles, for example, and Insomniac have said that Miles is going to bring out a different side of Peter that we've never seen before. From the short clip we saw, he seems to be kind of like a mentor character, but also like an older brother to Miles. And even around Miles, Peter did seem to be quite serious. On the Spider-Man side of things, we've seen that Spidey will definitely make many quips and jokes, and Insomniac have said that he's going to make so many quips throughout the whole story, and there will be a huge variety in the jokes he says. For example, in the demo, he says about the hex field being really cool. Insomniac have said they do that throughout the whole game, where he makes different jokes and quips on what is actually happening. So obviously Peter is Spider-Man, so Peter still has that side of him where he can forget about Peter's problems and be Spider-Man. Now let's get into what's actually happening in Peter's life. Now we don't know a whole lot about Peter's life, but from the teaser trailer and from what Insomniac have said, we know that Peter is quite poor and he hasn't got much money, so he can't maintain good property, and we saw he was evicted in the teaser, and I reckon that's later on in the game, but maybe after he's been evicted he has to move in with Aunt May. Now that would obviously be really cool and kind of be quite nostalgic to the comics where Peter used to live with Aunt May. Or maybe he could move in with MJ, or he could have to stay at Feast. This would add a whole lot of complex issues to the story, considering his aunt works at Feast, Peter seems to be working at Feast a little bit, and Spider-Man's nemesis Mr. Negative is the owner of Feast. So if Peter had to move into Feast, there could be many different ideas that Insomniac could explore there. Another thing going on in Peter's life is his complicated relationship with MJ. Lately, Insomniac have been saying that Peter and MJ are just best friends, but Brian Intihar has said in the past that their relationship is really complicated. This adds quite a bit of tension between MJ and Peter, because I have a feeling they both have feelings for each other, but obviously being Spider-Man limits what he can do as Peter. Peter also feels as if the city doesn't need Spider-Man as much. That's what we heard in the teaser trailer, and I reckon that's probably near the beginning of the game, considering when Mr. Negative makes an appearance, Peter obviously knows that the city's gonna need Spider-Man. So there are many factors affecting Peter's life and making him less happy than we usually see him, but as soon as we see Spider-Man, he's making jokes and quips again, which suggests to me that Peter feels that when he puts on that mask, he can forget about Peter Parker's problems and focus on Spider-Man and his problems. And that could possibly work both ways. So that is the end of this video, everyone. Sorry if it's a bit of a shorter video. I hope you enjoyed it, and please leave in the comments what you would like to see Peter Parker be like and what you think he's gonna be like. Also, I just want to give a shout out to Aha Universe Gaming again for the nice words, Ronnie Pugs again because he's always regularly commenting, Austin Pascal for the same reason, Cheffy TV, Super Sam who's always commenting, and Luke Sec for the suggestion and for always being awesome. And I also want to thank you all who comment and like, because it does mean so much to me. Also, please leave in the comments what you'd like me to do in my next video, and I'll see you in the next video. This is Mental Gamer, over and out.